is taking over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
And we are back. Hour number 2, Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Monday. Carver High and Joe Raineri in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. Got a lot to do going through all the NFL from yesterday. We got Lions and Niners tonight. Lots of bowl action to get to as well. And we're watching this Music City Bowl between Iowa and Missouri. You know, now they did flag him, Joe. There's a play right now. Missouri's trying to score before the half. There's under a minute to go. It's 21-14. This kid just missed the ball, the wide receiver on Missouri, and he got cleaned out, Joe, by this number 1 on Iowa. And as you mentioned, it's, you know, they're reviewing it for targeting, but you said he gets up and he steps over the guy, I cleaned him, almost happy about it, like I just cleaned this kid out. And they threw the flag at that point. You almost make the argument if he doesn't get the target, he should get a personal foul penalty,
I agree.
For what he did after that.
I agree. Yep. But and the reality is that he did. It wasn't targeting. I mean, the defender from Iowa did. He almost hit him on the side. He had turned his entire body not to try to lead with his helmet. But anytime you see the head snap back like that, they're throwing flags. So, but. I don't think this will be targeting, but it should be personal foul. You can't walk over the guy after you lay him out like that. You just can't do it.
You should not. You should get something. We'll see what they end up going. And I think this is what takes the longest in these college games. Going over to that monitor for every targeting penalty. Like, they got to get what – like, the NFL's done a little bit of a better job now, Joe, with that, a replay assist, I guess they call it, where they just go and tell you. So call reverse. They did not give him a targeting penalty on this, and he's not going to get anything else either, Joe. So this number 1 gets to keep on moving along with his day. No penalty there for that. It takes forever. Could somebody just buzz the ref and say it's not targeting? Move along instead of having to go over, put the headset on. Yeah. Every targeting call, they're over. That's why these college games 4.5 hours long. Well, there you go. That's the reason why that ends up happening. We continue on, Joe, and it was a party in Philadelphia yesterday, a festive atmosphere as the Eagles clinch the NFC East title. They get to beat up on a long-hated division rival. They have a running back that hits the 2,000-yard mark. Everyone was having fun. No Jalen Hurts. No problem. Kenny Pickett did a good job at the beginning. Tanner McKee came in, and he threw a bunch of touchdown passes. It got very ugly very quickly. 41-7, the Eagles win. Pick 6 right out of the gate as well. WIP and Philly Eagles Radio.
Rush is in the gun. 3 receivers. Rush is back. Here comes the rush. He fires, and it's intercepted. It's intercepted. Running with the football is Gardner Johnson. He's at the 30, the 20, the 10. Touchdown, Eagles on a pick 6.
Merrill Reese getting involved on WIP in Philadelphia. You know, that was a smash job, Joe. That was the Eagles just saying, you know what, we're not messing around today. Let's get this thing finished off, and we can have our own personal bye week next week against the New York Giants. They did not mess around with the Cowboys at all.
No, it was you had to figure the defense was going to have a good bounce back spot. I mean, they got 5 turnovers the week prior against Washington and still lost because they gave up over 30 points. You didn't think that they were going to roll over. They had already smashed this with Cooper Rush and this offense earlier in the season. They did the same thing. I think what's fascinating, though, is that you just kept feeding Saquon with the game well in hand, and you were just giving him the opportunity, every opportunity to touch the ball and get that much closer to the record. So congratulations. Week 18 means nothing, but you got 100 yards left to beat a record that's been up in the books for 40 years. And is he going to play? Is he the only starter that's going to play in a week that means nothing? I wouldn't want Saquon with his history of injuries playing next week.
There's several layers to this, Joe, and I think you said one that was very interesting, and that is they were trying to get him as many yards as they possibly could, because I think that tells you they are putting him out there next week. And they were trying to get as much as they could yesterday, so that way they could get him out of there as fast as possible next week. But also, if you're playing him, have to play the offensive line, right?
Yep.
You're not going to put him out there to break the record with all the backup offensive linemen in. That doesn't make any sense at all, because that opens up two things. A, it's going to take him longer to get it. And as you said, B, the backups are in there. That's also a better chance that he gets smashed and gets clipped and gets hurt. So I think personally they're going to play him. I don't think it's the right move. I don't think he cares about it. But I think they're going to go for it because Sirianni is a nut. And if it's his decision, I think he wants to rub it in the Giants' face because they're playing the Giants, and he wants to do it against them. Here's what Saquon had to say about it after the game yesterday.
The way I look at it, if it's in God's plan, then it is. If I'm not, overly trying to go get it. I'm not scared of it. Like I would love to, but at the end of the day, also we got bigger things that we're focusing on, and we're able to clinch the division right here. And whether it's we play next week or not and rest, I'm fine with that too, because I didn't come here and sign here just to rush for 2,000 or break a record. I want to do something special.
It's dicey, Joe. It's dicey to put him out there. I know one thing. I would have let him run even more. Why did we need to have Tanner McKee throwing bombs all over the place in that second half? I probably would have let him run more in that game yesterday and got him even closer and let Tanner McKee go throw the ball all over the Giants next week if I was the Eagles. But I think they're going to play him, Joe. I really do. And I think you're right. It's probably not the right decision, but I think Sirianni's a maniac. And I think that he actually does want to. I think he wants to rub it in the. I think he wants Saquon to get it more than that, but I think he also wants to rub it in the Giants' face.
Well, and it's also not. It's not just Saquon's award at that point. It's
right.
The offensive line is. I'm sure they're pushing for it too, because it's a big testament to the Eagles' offensive line if their running back now holds the record for the most rushing yards in a year. So I think there's a lot of egos at play here, but I think you should all settle down. Exactly how many games did it take Dickerson to get 2,100 yards?
Well,
and how many games is it going to take you, Barkley, to get, we're comparing apples to oranges?
Now, I think, Joe, that might be a reason why he doesn't play.
Right.
That, you could get the whole, but you played an extra game. It's going to be one of those asterisk things like we've done with the steroid users in baseball, and we've done, but you played extra. Now he'll have the 17-game record going forward for the rest of the time until they go to 18. 2 years from now, they start playing 18 games, and then guys are really going to coast some years through the 2000. But I'm with you. I think he plays him personally, and I think he's going to go after it this week. Probably get hurt too. That'll be their luck. The Vikings beat the Packers 27-25. I'm close to the end here, Joe. I'm gonna have to wait till I come back. I'll come back and play you the Sam Darnold touchdown. They did make that game interesting, Joe. But I think the only thing I liked about the late rally by the Packers is it got me the over, which is what I really cared about in the game, because it looked completely dead. I don't know what LaFleur just kept running the football down 21 points. And then finally, he let Love throw the ball around a little bit with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And look what happens. Amazing. Suddenly they started scoring. So we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about the Vikings and the Packers. Vikings have a chance now to be the one in the NFC if they could beat Detroit on Sunday night in the final game of the regular season. Coast to coast on a Monday. We're back on the grid right after this.
anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Road management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And we're back, Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Monday. Carver and Joe Raineri in for Scotty. Joe's got a great idea. We were talking about this Barkley thing again. They are playing the Giants, and we know the Giants are going to try. So if they put Barkley out there to try to get this record, Joe says just put 9 guys in the box and just play to run every single down. And if they want to have Tanner McKee throw cover 0 to Jahan Dotson and Calcaterra and all these other guys, it's going to be no A.J. Brown, no Devonta Smith. Go ahead. Yep. We're not going to let Barkley get the record. Just throw everyone in the box and then make his life difficult. And eventually Sirianni's going to be like, all right, you win. I'm taking him out. I'm done. So we're done with this. So you might be onto something, Joe. Send a note to Dable and let him know what you want to do this week there against the Eagles.
Listen, I don't think you got to tell Dable, the defensive coordinator, or anybody on the defense of the Giants, not one of them. And we're talking about a division rivalry with a lot of bad blood here over the years. So nobody on that Giants defense, especially coming off a win now, wants anything to do with the record books of Saquon going out in a meaningless game and running and torching him for $150. Like, not going to happen here, guys. I think the Giants will play this game really hard just to make sure he doesn't get the record.
I hope, you know what, Joe, should be fun. We'll see what they decide to do this week. As I was mentioning to you, Vikings beat the Packers 27-25. Late rally to get us the over. Sam Darnold, another huge game. He was finding everyone for touchdowns except Justin Jefferson on Fox yesterday.
Play clock winding down. Get the play off. It's Darnold. Gets it to Akers on a screen. Akers inside the 5. Akers scores! Touchdown, Vikings!
How about this guy this year, Joe? I want to tell you what this guy's got. He has this season. Here it is. 4,153 yards, 35 touchdown passes. Sam Darnold for the Minnesota Vikings. And they're just going to let him leave after the year because they have J.J. McCarthy, who hasn't played one down of NFL football yet, and he's coming off a knee surgery. They're just going to let Sam Darnold walk away? I don't know about that, Joe. I don't know if I think the Vikings need to start thinking about altering their plans, as in JJ, you might be sitting for another year or two before you play. You're going the Jordan Love route with us here in Minnesota.
Yeah, and again, I'll say it, coaching matters in the NFL. I would like to remind people, not too long ago, on the Carolina Panthers, you had Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield on the roster. Just going to let you remember that, and they were absolutely awful, remember? And now look what happens. Both guys go to organizations that put them in a position to be successful. And let's not forget, talking about a guy that was a third overall pick there when he was drafted. The problem is he got drafted to the Jets. So, I mean, we all knew that was going to be a problem. But that's not a problem anymore. I mean, this guy comes from USC. The idea that we keep expecting him to turn into a pumpkin is usually what happens with bad run organizations where you can't trust any sustained success. That's not what we have here in Minnesota. It's time to start trusting Sam Darnold.
There is only, Joe, a small percentage of guys who get drafted top 5, top 10, first round, who are so special that they can overcome the place that they get drafted to. The majority of these quarterbacks that get taken in these high positions, they are a product of their environment, of where they go. Will set them up. Because it's this Jets, Chicago, Cleveland, you go on, there's just places where these great, these guys are talented. They're just going to a place where the development isn't there. It just isn't. And you put these same guys with the same talent in the hands of guys like Kevin O'Connell, and suddenly, wow, they look like they did when they were in college. Here is Kevin O'Connell. He loves Sam Darnold.
Can I say about Sam Darnold other than another big time performance when his team needed it? Phenomenal moment in the locker room after the game when he finally made it in there. Was really cool, and I'm just so proud of him. There's so many things that lead into moments like this for Sam since he became a Minnesota Viking, just to see how he's ultimately been able to, maximize everything about his opportunity. And our football team loves him for it, and I've had an absolute blast coaching him and just so proud of him.
Well, Joe, I'll ask you kind of similar to what I asked you about Tampa. Are you a believer, though, for real? Because I've seen this movie before. Now, they weren't this good a couple years ago when they lost to the Giants at home. But even in the history of the Minnesota Vikings, I've seen good teams come into the playoffs, and suddenly it doesn't end well for them. Are you a believer that they're going to probably have to beat both at some point, the Lions and the Eagles, to get to the Super Bowl? Now, maybe it's going to be in their building if they can win next week. But can they get to the Super Bowl? Are you a believer?
If they have home field advantage, they beat Detroit. Yeah, I absolutely think they are. And not because, listen, over the years with Minnesota, Carver, it's always been, we always knew they had offense. The offense wasn't the issue. It was always Zimmer and the defense where would end up letting them down at some particular point. Now they've got the offense again, maybe even kicking it up a notch with all those weapons. But that defense, what else can you say? They're a top 5 defense. They're a better defense than what Detroit has. And if they go to Detroit and limit them and win that game and get home field advantage, then yes, they are very much alive and well to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
I still got to see it. I'm not there, Joe. I'm just not there. I got to see it, and you're right. It's the defense has been very good. I'm not trusting yet that Sam Darnold's going to quarterback a Super Bowl team. I'm just not. And you know what? He's shoving it in all our face. He's got 35 touchdowns and 4,100 yards. I just gave you the numbers, but I just got to see him beat these teams in late January before I get there. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Monday. Carver, High, and Joe in for Scotty. We're back after this.
anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Road management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Monday. Carver High and Joe Raineri in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us. They're at the half at the Music City, a 35-point first half. 21-14, Iowa leads Mizzou as they are getting ready to hopefully get this thing going second half momentarily. All right, Joe, a few more things from yesterday before we move on to tonight. First of all, Bills destroyed the Jets 40-14, but it was 40-0 when all the Bills, Allen left the game and Rodgers left the game. Everybody left the game. It was 40-0. I really enjoyed this one on several levels yesterday, Joe, but I thought this was my favorite one. Here's Josh Allen doing what he usually does, running around, scrambling, heaving one in the air, and Keon Coleman just being taller than everybody else on CBS.
Point-plus margin. Here's the 3rd and 9. Time to survey. Time to look. Now you got to get rid of it.
No.
Into the end zone, and it's caught. Coleman pulls it down. And can you believe it?
I can believe it because, first of all, not only was Keon Coleman a better jumper than everyone, Joe, the Jets quit and they weren't jumping anymore at that point. For the ball, so the Jets didn't care if somebody caught it on the other end. That was a very tough scene for the Jets. We'll get to them in a moment. But let me present to you, Joe, the latest MVP odds. There it is. Josh Allen as the favorite. This has become a very hot topic, Joe. This is a sizzling hot topic. Who should be the NFL MVP? You obviously know where my allegiances are going to lie on this. I believe that it's Josh Allen. I don't like that. A lot of the prominent NFL types have moved the goalpost on how this award should be graded. Last year, stats didn't matter, and that's all fine and good. But this year, stats are more important. Here's a stat that I saw this morning, Joe. Did you know that Josh Allen has lost an entire game in fourth quarters that he hasn't played in because of how much his team has destroyed other teams? An entire game, a full 4 quarters worth of football, he has not played at the end of games. And that's how, think of all the stats you lose, Joe, in 4 fourth quarters that you don't play in.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, how many games has Lamar won with a broken left hand? Just curious. Anybody?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I'm good. And listen, they've been wanting to give Josh Allen this award over the last couple of years, and Lamar ended up getting the benefit of the doubt not once but twice. This is nothing more than a popularity contest, these awards here. And there's only two guys, maybe three guys here, because if we're being serious, why is nobody talking about Joe Burrow? Because, well, he's on a 7-win football team. That's why. Who's the number 2 seed in the AFC? Oh, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. There is no argument here. It's Josh Allen's award, and I don't care what happens next week. It's the price tells you everything you need to know about who's going to win this award. Nobody with a plus dollar sign next to their odds is winning this.
Especially when all you heard for months before the season started was, oh, you're going to see the real Josh Allen this year. He's got no weapons now. He's got no more digs. Yeah. He's got no more of this. This is a guy that is throwing to – he has said 13 different players catch a touchdown this year. Yep. He throws to Mac Hollins. Ty Johnson. Keon Coleman's a second-round rookie. There is no Stephon Diggs. There is no, you could list all the other big-time players that are there. Allen has been excellent this year for the Buffalo Bills, and he deserves it. Even you say try to get, I don't even care about all that stuff. It's based off of this year, and he's been the MVP of the league. It just is what it is. You're gonna have to deal with it. As far as the Jets go, Joe, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna have time to play the clip. I gotta play this Aaron Rodgers when we come back about how he tapped out. But I did see this morning that they're going to interview Ron Rivera and Rex Ryan. Now that gets you excited if you're a Jet fan. That has got to be right where you were hoping they were going to start looking when they opened up this process. Bring Rex back, Joe. Why not? Get Rex back in there. Rex wants the job. He's politicked for it enough. That's for sure on television. Clearly wants the job back. I can't wait to hear. When Joe we come back, Joe's going to tell me who he wants to be. The new Jet head coach and how he likes not Riverboat Ron and Rexy getting interviews for it. Coast to Coast on a Monday. We're back after this.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And we are back. Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Monday. Carver High and Joe Raineri in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. All right, I could have played you several clips, Joe, from the Jet postgame yesterday. I could have played you Garrett Wilson looking like he just can't wait to get the hell out of there. I could have played you Sauce Gardner saying that he thinks the guys have quit. We could have done all those, but I decided to go with Aaron basically being like, yeah, I told Ulbrich, too. I could have played him saying he didn't see any of the offense because he was too busy with the defense, so he doesn't know why the offense wasn't that good. Instead, I decided Rodgers basically saying at 33-0, he told Ulbrich, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm tapping out.
Yep. What was the conversation like with Jeff when you said what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, it was 33-0. We were sitting there, and I said at some point, probably go to Tyrod here, huh? And then the next play, he threw a screen for a touchdown, so it's 40-0.
I guess you might want to go to Tyrod here at some point. You get him out of here. I think he had I don't really subscribe to QBR, Joe, but I saw he had 1.2 QBR yesterday. It was like one of the worst of all time since they started that stat. What a tough scene. And you got to tell me what you think of Rex and Ron Rivera, Joe. Go ahead. Let me know.
Well, I don't get the Ron Rivera. I didn't even know Ron Rivera was actually up for the job. But we all know Rex has been lobbying for the job, which I find fascinating. But, I don't, much like what we talked about with Raheem Morris earlier in Atlanta, the second go-around, guys that failed their first time have an opportunity maybe to come back, and have they learned their lessons? The bottom, Rex is perfect for New York. Rex is willing to put up with Woody Johnson when nobody else of any quality wants the job, including a guy like Belichick who'd rather go back to college than even remotely consider working for the Jets organization. There's something, it's just crazy enough where if Rex has actually learned from his mistakes and he surrounds himself with the right offensive-minded guys, and I'm not talking about hiring Mark Sanchez as your offensive coordinator. I mean, if you can surround himself with some quality offensive-minded people, it's not the crazy. It may seem crazy, but it's not the craziest because it's still New York. Nobody will handle the media and take the pressure off the players like Rex Ryan will in that market. And again, if he's learned anything, the Jets might be better off for it. He might be better off for it. It certainly sounded from a lot of the interviews like Rex, listen, get away from the game. You learn your lessons. Sometimes you can't see the forest from the trees. Who else better to take the focus off of everybody else and put it squarely on him in New York than Rex Ryan?
He knows how to work with Woody, too, right? I know that nobody probably wants to work with Woody anymore after that story a couple weeks ago. So, I would love to have Rex back as the Jet head coach. I think it would be great from an entertainment standpoint. I think it would be even better. But you're right.
The defense would be better.
From a serious standpoint, there's worse ideas.
Yes.
Ron Rivera being one of them.
Yes.
And I saw Luke did find me the story from Brian Costello, the New York Post. He did say he thought that Matt Nagy would be the next head coach of the Jets. So I don't know how Matt Nagy could get another bite at the apple already. But
No.
I guess I'm not in for that either. If I was a Jet
Nope.
fan, going to be another fun off season for Jet Nation after this year. But man, it can't end fast enough for them this week. And they actually have to, they gotta try this week, Joe. I mean, Miami's going to be playing for a spot, if Denver loses.
Yep.
So Jets actually have to show up and play that game. They can't just do a full scrimmage. That wouldn't be fair to everyone else.
Isn't this so Jets, though? Like, you're interviewing head coaches before you actually solidify who the next general manager is. So what you're going to do is hire a coach and then stick it with the Jet. Like, the only thing the Jets should be talking about is GM hires right now. That's it.
And that's, as usual, just backwards. Just why are we doing things backwards? Why are you not hiring the general manager who you can then have a discussion with? What's your vision for a head coach? Not
exactly
hiring a coach and then saying, you have to have this coach. We just hired him 2 weeks ago, so he's your coach. You have to be able to work with him. That's why the cycle continues, Joe. And you know this. It just goes round and round because of those things. On the other side of town, the Giants just had to lose their last 2 games, and they would have gotten the first pick in the NFL draft. That didn't happen. Drew Lock played the game of his life. 45-33, the Giants beat the Colts. Forget Neighbors. Neighbors, who I bet to have a touchdown like 5 weeks in a row, decides to have 2 yesterday. I don't need to hear him scoring another touchdown. Instead, let's hear Drew Lock, like we said, game of his life, and saying this was for the fans, even though most fans weren't happy that they won.
What was it like to get that first win at home in front of fans this season?
Oh, they deserved it. The locker room deserved it. Everybody a part of this organization deserved it. It was a lot of fun.
One time they want
a lot of fun. We were clicking today. We knew we had it in us. It's time to go out and show it and do it and make the plays when they were there. Sure enough, we went out and did that today. So it was a fun time, really good time.
You think, I know most Giant fans aren't thrilled with that performance, Joe, but man, that's the thing. Drew Lock doesn't care because Drew Lock's trying to get himself more money in the offseason. So now if that's the end of the Drew Lock season, and that's 5 tutties, a huge game like that, people go, wow, look at that. Drew Lock can play. So I don't blame him for one bit. And that's why it's hard, Joe. It's like I said at the beginning of the show. We sit here and we try to find these narratives and these other things to take a team or to bet on a team in these games, and to simply just for us to say, well, they need to lose and they're throwing it. This is 2 weeks in a row now you've seen. It's just not that simple. It's just not – that's just not the way it goes. The Raiders did it 2 weeks ago. And hell, the Raiders have now won 2 games in a row. They're even further down the line now than they were. And then the Giants win because they're not trying to lose. They're just really bad teams. And when you're still trying to win, Joe, and you're a really bad team and the other team sucks that day, like the Colts did yesterday, you're going to come out with a victory. And that's simply what happened with the Giants.
Yeah, well, and, you had a situation where a team like the Giants, very frustrated, hadn't won a home game all year. Guys had not mailed it in. And they took on what has been a ridiculously overvalued team the entire season from a division that might just be the absolute worst in the AFC. And voila, that's what you get. You get Joe Flacco, who wasn't the reason they lost that game, by the way. But you get a backup quarterback that can come in there and lay an egg beyond egg and ruin their season. It was a perfect storm with the Giants yesterday. Absolutely perfect storm. And at this point, what's stopping you from winning one more game now that you just completely demolished your ability to go out and get the number 1 draft pick?
Doesn't make that's all you did by winning that game yesterday. And you prevented, of course, a winless home season, more embarrassment for the Giants as an organization and a franchise.
Yep.
But they do get the job done there. All right. We'll come back, Joe, and I'm going to give you the playoff pictures in both the AFC and the NFC. And I've got you the schedule for next week. And then we will give you the numbers for tonight. Lions, Niners, nothing on the line. We'll see if Dan Campbell just wants to stick it in the Niners' face. I think he does because of how things ended in Santa Clara last year in January for him. We'll see if that's precisely what he wants to do tonight. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Monday. Carver and Joe Raineri in for Scotty. We're back next week.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night, I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Road management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And we are back. Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Monday. Carver High and Joe Raineri here with you in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. All right, Joe, a few other things here. So where's the AFC playoff picture? And I'll tie in anything we hadn't talked about here. So the Bengals, of course, Saturday beat the Broncos. That was a wild game, which, of course, kept the Bengals alive. That also kept the Colts and Miami alive, but the Colts screwed that up, as we just talked about, so they're finished now. Miami wins in Cleveland with no Tua. So they're still in the mix. Everyone is clinched except the final spot. Basically, the scenario is, Joe, Broncos win against the Chiefs. They get it. Broncos lose. Miami is next in the door. If they beat the Jets, they would get it. Broncos and Miami lose. The Bengals beat the Steelers. They would get it. If all three of them lose, Joe, the Broncos would hold the card and would stay where they are. Do you expect it to be the Broncos, I would guess, considering it's going to be a Carson Wentz-led Kansas City Chief attack for that game this week?
Yeah, and listen, if I'm Denver, the only thing I want to be able to control my own destiny, right? And you can do that still, Denver, and you have a chance to do it against the backups of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Denver is sitting in the spot you want to be in, as opposed to Miami, of course, and Cincinnati, who the only thing they really control is just beat the teams you have to play and then hope that somebody else doesn't handle business. So I would much rather be Denver, and that's why I thought Denver always knew in the back of their head, once Kansas City beat Pittsburgh on Christmas, you had to win one of the next two games, and you were in. So even if you couldn't get it done this week against Cincinnati, the chances are you'd be at home playing Kansas City's backup. So still got to go out and get it done. You still got a rookie quarterback, but I do think the line is 8.5. Yeah, it's probably going to be double digits.
Yeah, I've seen some weird things in these last weeks of these regular seasons. You've seen some very strange things.
Yep.
And I don't know if I completely trust Denver to win that game. I know I definitely don't trust them to lay 8.5 in that game. That I do know.
Mm-hmm.
That's Chiefs for me. Because when you're as good a team as the Chiefs is, Joe, and I know that their main component isn't going to be out there, that is a winning team. From the first guy to the 55th, 54th, 53rd, 52nd guy. Everyone on that team has that winning feeling, and they're going to get a chance to go in there and show that they can do it too, I'd be very nervous. If it was anyone else, Joe, I'd say probably not a problem. I think the Chiefs makes it scary for Denver in that game. Now, Cincinnati's going to play Saturday night in Pittsburgh. Me and Ferrall were talking about this. He's going to the game. And I said, I hope you got an early enough flight on Saturday because they might move that game to Saturday. And sure enough, they did. It's the late game, so we won't have an issue. The Bengals are favored 1.5 in Pittsburgh on Saturday night. And I know the Bengals are the team everyone wants in, but I think that the path is just a little too hard, Joe, because I'm not sure they're going to get both to happen, Denver and Miami. That seems like a lot to bite off and chew.
And also a pretty big game for Pittsburgh if they have any intentions of actually getting a home game and winning the AFC North here, because and who wants to go into the playoffs losing 4 in a row? Because that's what's at tap here for the Steelers, and it's not going to be a walk in the park. So, this is a huge game for both of these teams. But once again, the Bengals, you got to win this game, and then you got to hope. But if they don't win and the Steelers win, well, then, it's going to make the Denver game even less juicy, so to speak, here when they have to take them on Sunday.
And the Steelers may know their fate, per se, for the division. Obviously, the Ravens are playing that game before them Saturday at 4:30. Ravens win, they'll have the North. I just can't see the Ravens losing this game to Cleveland. They already lost to them once this year. I find it hard to believe they'd lose to them again. But even if they aren't for the division, Joe, I think there's still a very big difference for Pittsburgh going to Houston or going to Baltimore. I think that there's a big difference in those two assignments on Wild Card weekend. So I think that there's still going to be a lot to play for on the Steelers side of things on Saturday night against the Bengals. NFC is a lot easier, Joe, for me to give you quickly. That's because everybody is in except the winner of the South. South is simple. Bucks win against New Orleans on Sunday, they are win. If they lose, opens the door for Atlanta, who's playing Carolina. Everyone else is in. I do think there is still some seeding things here, Joe. Obviously, we know Lions-Vikings. That can change. I think that Washington can actually jump Green Bay if they win and the Packers lose, but the Packers are playing the Bears, so, we know how that's going to go, Joe. I mean, they're not listening to the Bears. They're not listening to the Bears. No. Malik Willis will beat the Bears if they played him this week. Last thing for you here. Here's the draft order right now, top 10. There it is. New England is at the top. Tennessee, Cleveland, Giants. So the Giants fall from 1 to 4 with their loss yesterday. The Raiders tumbled all the way down to 8 by winning again. The Jets are actually up to, what is that? They're up to 7 now, Joe, the Jets.
Nice.
So they're creeping up the board here a little bit.
You got to love it. Jets could be as high as, 5 or 6? And, boy, that would be fantastic for Rex. I'll say this. It's going to be interesting because I don't see New England, even with backups for Buffalo, I don't see New England winning that game. And then the big question is, all right, if you do get the number 1 draft pick, is Gerard Mayo the coach next year? If that's even the case. If a Mike Vrabel wants to come back, are you picking for Vrabel as the head coach or Gerard Mayo? And it's certainly not going to be a quarterback, though, I can tell you that.
Well, here's how interested New England is in winning this game against Buffalo. Mayo already said this morning that they might not play Drake May because they don't want to risk any long-term injury with him. So that's taking a page out of the Cleveland book with DTR the last few weeks. That's precisely what New England's doing there.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Monday. Carver and Joe Raineri in for Scotty on SportsGrid at SportsGrid Radio. Good to have everybody with us. All right, Joe, tonight, Lions and the Niners in Santa Clara. Of course, we know the deal with the Lions. It doesn't mean anything for them tonight. They have to play Minnesota next Sunday for the whole ball of wax in the NFC, home field, bye, etc. For the Niners, it is let's get out of here as fast as possible. This season has been miserable. 3.5 is the number for Detroit, road favorite. Total is very high, 50.5. I have believed Dan Campbell all week, Joe. I've seen him say several occasions that he does not care what the situation of this game is. He's playing this game like he plays every other game. He's going full force. I think he wants to. We've seen him run it up on some teams this year. I'm not saying he's going to do that tonight, but I think if he had the opportunity to score 40 points against the Niners in Santa Clara, I think he would do it. I think he's nuts if he keeps Gibbs in there the entire night, considering he's already down David Montgomery, but we shall see. But the other offensive pieces, Joe, I think they're going to play, for the most part, some significant time, and unless this game gets ugly, probably play the whole night.
Yeah, it could be, but I could also see this be an absolute snooze fest in the spot. I might look for Detroit early. They've been one of the most profitable first-half teams all season long. It would not shock me if Hendon Hooker or, you ready for this, Teddy Bridgewater sees snaps in the second half of this game here. A game, like you said, means absolutely nothing at this point to them. It's really all going to come down to next week. 14 straight was the number I saw there, Carver. That is how many games in a row at home in California that the 49ers have beat the Detroit Lions. 14 straight over the years. No kidding, Dan Campbell wants to beat them, but at what cost, Dan? I would look at him in the first half, and I would look to punt on this game in the second half, and it wouldn't shock me if the under is a clear winner in this one.
I'm with you. I was of the thought that they were going to try to run this thing into the 40s and blow them out. I think first half is the smartest way to do it, as Joe is telling you here. Good angle for you. and just you're done with it then at that point, Joe. Let me just get out of here. I got the first, because I do think they're going to, at least at the start of the game, they're going to go out and take care of business. And the under is also juicy for me. You had the good number on the Lions there in San Fran. This is Purdy. Now, Gabe gave me this earlier. I think this is the same number that he gave me, and that's Purdy covering against good teams. 1-8 against the spread. Last 9 games against 500 or winning teams, quote unquote. So never, usually doesn't go very well for him in those spots. As far as the player props for tonight, like again, Joe, if we think like you just said, getting involved in Lions stuff is going to be very dicey for this evening because you don't know how long some of these guys are going to play. Here are the most bet ones. This Guarendo, under 64.5 rushing yards for him. Williams under 3.5 receptions. Purdy over 3.5 rushing attempts. Now, Goff over 250.5 passing yards. Like, that's one, Joe, that I wouldn't want any part of if the situation, like you said, happens and the Hendon Hooker finds himself into the game.
Yes, and that's the thing that you have to guard against. And I know that Brock Purdy rushing attempts is been popular at over 3.5, but I would even look at his rushing yards since the last 5 quarterbacks to face the Lions. Anthony Richardson, 61 yards. Caleb Williams, 39. Jordan Love, 23 yards. Josh Allen, 68. Caleb Williams again for 34. This is a banged-up defense, and Brock Purdy could absolutely be on the move here tonight. That might be the easiest prop of the night in this game, his over rushing yards.
I like it, Joe. Let's do it. Here's the tutties quickly for me. First touchdown, St. Brown at plus 650. I'm not as high on Laporte, and the books know it too. They've already dropped it to plus 250. I like Debo for the Niners at plus 180. Craig Reynolds tonight, Joe. Why? I just told you. Gibbs ain't playing the whole night. I don't believe him. And Craig Reynolds will get the rock in the second half. In fact, that was 6 this morning. It's down to 4-1. So you go get your Craig Reynolds touchdown now, and hopefully we can all have a celebration for it later. Put it with the golf, too. We got the Tournament of Champions this week. Let's put it with Tagala to win out in Hawaii. Hour 3 next, coast to coast.
In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans, bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Road management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.